Hey, everyone, this is Andrew Hall, but you may call me Dr. Kennard. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. If you're watching on the Pathos Non-Religious channel, you could be watching on that because I posted this show on my blog, Laughing in Disbelief. You could be watching on Facebook, too. If you're on those platforms, I won't be able to see your chats. If you want to comment live here on the show, please head over to YouTube where you can interact with people in the chat as well as me directly. So what are we doing today? Nazis? You know, my girlfriend mentioned the other day, Andy, I've seen you drunk several times in recent history. And you haven't gone on any rants about Trump and Nazis. It's like, well, many of you know during the late stage of the Trump campaign, actually in the middle stage of the Trump campaign, while the election was going on in 2016, I was talking about Nazis a lot. I was talking about the Reichstag fire. When Chris Mallett and I, and Rage, who I see is in the chat, was on the show when we were doing our morning show, the early iteration of this show, we talked quite a bit about Nazis, Reichstag fire, authoritarianism. And now, guess what? We get to talk about it again. Woohoo! Other stories we're talking about, COVID Christians are back in the news today, doing COVID Christian stuff. Going to be talking about Maine, and this is going to be an exciting story, everyone. It makes Nazis pale in terms of civil forfeiture. It's an important story, though, that may have gotten overlooked. And we're going to be talking about weed. We're going to talk about how some Republican representatives are getting to be in favor of marijuana. Good news overall. Are we talking about ninjas too? We're going to talk ninjas. Nazis and ninjas, everyone. And that, I don't know if we're going to be able to cover it all in an hour. Let's do something. Well, this isn't funny, but I thought it was pretty cool. So let's do something cool first. I just ate 20 minutes ago, and now I want a bacon lava egg. Mind you, I'd have to use some kind of sad vegetarian bacon. But, it does make me want to have an egg lava treat. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. Let's see who's in the chat. Scott Duke, you were early. You were here at like 8:44. Tobin Templeman, glad to see you here. John Hudson. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Reichstag fire, 1933 in February. There's stuff there. There's history that we're going to talk about. Let's see who else is here. Grant Farmer, glad to see that you're here. Yo, Rage, that Loki, the final episode of Loki for this season, completely, sets up what the next MCU stage, the next series of movies for who knows how long, the next 10 years? I don't know. I'm still waiting for Dr. Doom. I'm hoping for Doom myself. I just want to see Doom done correctly. But I'm happy with Kang the Conqueror too. Don't get me wrong. All right, let's see who else. I've already given my unborn grandbaby the nickname Loki. Good for you. Derek Cruz from North Carolina. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Bonnie's Kentucky in the house. Good for you. And Dee Parks. Good morning, Dee. Hope you are doing also well. Rage. if you're going to go with a vegetarian style breakfast pseudo meat, go with the sausage, a good vegetarian sausage, whether it's made with impossible meat or not. A good sausage, vegetarian sausage, is out there. Glenn Chesterton. Okay, so I want to let you all know, or to remind you, that today is Thursday, and so we are doing the after party after show at 10 o'clock, but it's only running for a half an hour today because I have to go to work early. So it's going to go from 10 to 10:30. If you want to be on the panel, the link is in the description. All right, I've gotten a lot done today. This is the second day I've been up since 4:30 this morning, 4:30 this morning Eastern time. And so when I get up at 4:30 in the morning, I get stuff done, not just getting the show ready, not just doing the blog post, but I start inviting people to come on the show. I start getting my calendar organized. Jimmy Lou is coming on the channel. We're doing Best Advice Ever. We are recording the episode tomorrow on Saturday, but I'm dropping the video of my conversation with Jimmy on Sunday night, since I'm busy on Sunday for the late night show that we do here at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. I hope that all made sense, that whole word salad I just said. Dr. Josh Bone, I just been talking with Dr. Josh. I'm going to be reading his book, The Atheist Handbook of the Old Testament, Volume 1. And he's coming on the show. He's coming on the channel. And we're going to talk about, his book, The Atheist Handbook of the Old Testament. It should be pretty cool. See, this is what happens when I go to bed early and I get up early. I just do things, all kinds of things. I actually read too. I was reading through one book today and I'm like, I don't think I could do this. The book, my book review, I'm not going to tell you which book it is, right? But my review because I don't like to talk a lot of smack about authors, because, being an author is tough. And my review for the book that I was reading, that I put down today, Never to Pick Up Again, would be, it's a great read if you're illiterate. So before we get to Nazis, I want to talk about my kid for a second. Oh, Andy, your kid. Yeah, but it's a funny story, everyone. So my kid's at art camp. She is at a small, I can't afford art camp, by the way. It's her grandparents that are sending her to 3 weeks to art camp. And I have to say that my kid's skills have leveled up since she's been there. She's only been there for a couple of days, but the work that she's producing is pretty remarkable. So she called me, which is odd, right? She just called me last night and she said, "Dad, you wouldn't believe it." And so, "All right, try me." She goes, "Well, I heard this girl at camp say that amethyst is the best crystal to treat for depression." And I said, yeah. I'm not surprised, Al, that you might find people at art camp that might be into the woo. Amethysts are the best crystals for depression. I don't think that's been peer reviewed. I don't think that's been peer reviewed by a decent journal. Oh, and my cat's depressed that my girlfriend's gone. My girlfriend's gone for a week. And I don't know, maybe animals vibe onto the energy that, the people are, because my girlfriend is very chill. She's good natured. She's easygoing. And I'm not any of those things. What you see here on the show is what you get. If anything, I'm much more raw in person. And the cat's like, "Yeah, all right, I'll spend time with you." But right now, the cat's sleeping upstairs where my girlfriend normally sleeps. She's just like, I'm just waiting for her to come back. That's the vibe I'm getting from my cat this morning. Rage says, being an author is tough, but it's like those American Idol editions. Sometimes you just have to ask, who the hell told you could write? That's a good point, Rage. And the thing is, see, when I've had, most of the time when I've had a beef with someone, or I have a tip for them artistically, I would typically privately message them and say, hey, this is what did you know that you left out an apostrophe or you left out a comma or you did, so yeah, I don't want to put this guy on blast about his book. But yeah, and it's a big book too. It's over 300 pages. And it's like, wow, man, that's just tough. Yeah, Jimmy Lou, right? Hilarious guy. He's going to be on the best advice ever. Oh, you're making your video, Matthew chapter 1 today, huh? Very good. Kendra, glad to see that you're here. Glenn Chesterton, not many things make me exceptionally happy in life. And I figured out why, actually. I had an epiphany while I was making some eggs for myself this morning. It's like because of, maybe some ADHD I have, not hyperactive type of ADHD, but the dreamy kind of just looking out the window kind of ADHD. I figured out that being happy might prevent me from keeping a good grasp on the ADHD, right? Because when I'm in a good mood, I'm not really focused, or I'm focused on something else. And so, yeah, I think that could I think this whole thing, this whole personality might be just based on managing my symptoms. I think that could be it. All right, before we get to Nazis, let's do some memes. You want to do some memes? Good morning, Lee. Safe to say the dumbing down of America was successful? Oh, yeah. True enough. Let's see. Gonna do this, that. This. I'm sorry. I'm banning someone right now. You have to give me, There we go. I think that does that. All right, good. Okay, so this is the problem with not having a producer, right? You just have to kind of do things yourself. All right, let's do memes, everyone. Only one feline-related meme, but I thought I would open the show with this one right here. What do you like to do right after you wake up? And the cat says, just what? Fall asleep again. I would love to be able to go to sleep after waking up. That never happens. That rarely happens, to tell you the truth. And this speaks, obviously, I'm not a boomer. I'm not a millennial. I'm an Xer, and this speaks to me. Just remember, for every boomer that hates a millennial, there's a generation in between that hates you both. And the last meme, before we start talking Nazis. Lucky for us, the cartoonist is a lousy speller. I'll let that one sink in. It's a slow burn, right? All right, everyone. So Nazis. The good thing about not running ads is that I don't have to worry about this getting demonetized, because this is completely funded by you all, people who are YouTube members and people who are patrons. So I can talk about Nazis, and don't have to worry about getting demonetized. Here we go. Top U.S. general warned of the Reichstag moment in Trump's turbulent days. General Mike Milley drew comparison to Nazi Germany as Trump tried to overturn election defeat. New book, I Alone Can Fix This, says. Before we start off talking about the Reichstag fire, I have to say, General Mark Milley, savage eyebrows. Don't trim them. Loving the eyebrows. It's a good look if you're in the military, right? That's savage eyebrows going on there. Reichstag fire, 1933. The Reichstag was pretty much the Capitol building. It was where the parliament met in the Weimar Republic. Backing up a little bit more, the Weimar Republic was the government of Germany, the democratic government of Germany from 1919 to 1933. And that's when the Nazis took over. And now, a little bit of backstory, a little bit more backstory, but we're just going way back to talk about the backstory. The fire itself was on February 27th, 1933. On February 24th, Nazis announced that they had evidence that communists were planning to attack public buildings. So, the Reichstag fires on February 27th. On the 24th, the Nazis proclaimed that communists were planning to attack buildings. Seems like a coincidence. Maybe not. Maybe not. So basically, the Reichstag fire happened. Hitler was chancellor. He was not president. But the president then, Hindenburg announced martial law for all intents and purposes, and that led to the Nazis gaining power and killing off the Weimar Republic. That is a short synopsis, and everyone. But what I found interesting was that the Nazis said that the communists were going to be planning to attack buildings just a few days before the actual Reichstag fire. So you will hear the term Reichstag fire in American politics sometimes with a bit of hyperbole, right? But in this particular case, a high-ranking general of the United States military, of the Army, was throwing that phrase around during the Donald Trump presidency. Links are in the description below. I should say that too. Links are in the description below. All right. Jessi Bear, glad to see that you're here. Glad to see that you're here. All right, so let's go on to the next panel. All right. Shortly before the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mike Milley, told aides the U.S. was facing a Reichstag moment because Donald Trump was preaching the gospel of the Fuhrer. According to an eagerly awaited book about Trump's last year in office, the excerpts from I Can Fix This by Carol Lennick and Philip Rucker were reported by New York Magazine on Wednesday. The author's employer, the Washington Post, published the first extract from the book a day earlier. It will be published next week. Milley's invocation of Germany under the Third Reich follows a report in another book, Frankly, We Did Win This Election, by Michael C. Bender, that Trump told his chief of staff, John Kelly, Hitler did a lot of good things. Is anyone surprised that Hitler, I'm sorry, I was using Hitler as against Trump. Is anyone surprised that Trump said that? Lennick and Rucker report that Milley spoke to an old friend who warned the general that Trump and his allies were trying to overturn the government in response to Joe Biden's election victory, which Trump falsely maintains was the result of electoral fraud. Milley is reported to have said, they may try, but they're not going to fucking succeed. You can't do this without the military. You can't do this without the CIA and the FBI. We're the guys with guns. Okay, so this is another moment of Andy being right, by the way, because back, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, you will hear me rage and Chris Mallard in months ago, maybe a year ago. And I said, the people who really are in charge ultimately, or the arbitrators of what happens in the country, are the guys with guns. And I also said, that people in the military are having conversations about Trump, about what the line is, what to do in case the line is crossed. Yeah. And I just want to point out too, that a lot of people are saying, oh, good for the military, that they're willing to step in. Yeah, but the politicization of the military in either direction is bad. The fact that the military had to have, or people, high-ranking officers within the military had to have this conversation, shows us what kind of precarious state the Republic was in and still is in. Reportedly calling Trump supporters brown shirts, a reference to paramilitaries who served Hitler in Germany in the 1930s, Milley is reported to have believed long before the Capitol attack that Trump was stoking unrest, possibly in hopes of an excuse to invoke the Insurrection Act and call out the military. Milley notoriously appeared with Trump in Lafayette Square in Washington in June 2020, after anti-racism protests had been aggressively cleared and Trump walked to a church to stage a photo op with a Bible. The general apologized for that incident. It has been widely reported that he resisted Trump's efforts then to invoke the Insurrection Act and crack down on the protests. Funny thing, the Insurrection Act, yeah, calling out the military. Scary times, and still scary times. Republicans still deny the fact that Joe Biden won fairly. They still support QAnon, many of them. It is still Donald Trump's party for all intents and purposes. Going to check out the chat. John Hudson, this is more proof that the toilet should be scrubbed before the toilet gets dirty and gross. All right. I'm glomming on. I'm feeling that metaphor, John Hudson. What's up, Sammy Jenkins? Yeah, when the military has to plan to fight your coup attempt, maybe not the guy that should ever be president again. Maybe, perhaps. Because this is, once again, George Lucas, you may not like those prequel movies, 1, 2, and 3, but there is a bit of wisdom in 2, Attack of the Clones, and actually in Revenge of the Sith, too, when Mace Windu tells Anakin that the Chancellor is just too powerful, that he owns the courts, he owns the Senate. Heading towards that direction, everyone. We were on that trajectory in 2015, 2016. Joe Biden got elected, but Trump gets elected again, which is a possibility. Let's not forget, Texas did at CPAC. People at CPAC want President Trump to be president. I think it was, 80%? It was a really high percentage of a straw poll taken at CPAC. All right. Let's see. All right. I like them. I like the Dee Parks. I like the kind of mini history lessons we get some days. I move that Dr. Kennard does history segments called Halls of History. Oh, I like that, Dee. That's pretty smart. Very clever. Yes, Sammy Jenkins. I am saying that the media finally caught up with me. And thank you, Rach. It's always good to have someone who was here with me when I was like saying words that were true. That's why whenever, you might see me with Jack Maturko when we do the show, the late show on Sundays at 10:30. Then I go like, Jack, I did call the election in 2016, right? Pretty much for the appropriate reasons. He's like, yes, Andy, you did. Okay. I just need to self-soothe myself just to make sure I'm not just confabulating this, making this up. Wow. So, when the book comes out, there'll be a lot more analysis. There'll be a lot more talk about Nazis and brown shirts and Proud Boys and oath takers. And there's going to be a lot more of this conversation going on. All right. I just spent the last 23 minutes talking about National Socialism, the Reichstag fire, and my cat. I just do the halftime tummy rub show. I got to reframe this. Halftime tummy rub show. Please like the video, everyone. Please like the video.
5 reasons to date a nihilist. 1. They don't care if things go wrong. You're 20 minutes late to your date, so what? It doesn't matter, because nothing matters. Humans have been around for 300,000 years, and the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. And here we are worried about our reservations to the Cheesecake Factory. 2. They'll always bring snacks. Chips, chocolate, carbs, the stuff that'll kill you. Because why not? We only go around once, everything's a rental, and if you're 25 now, you'll be dead in about 4,000 Fridays. So enjoy the simple stuff on your one-way trip to Birdland. 3. They have a sense of humor. Because life is short, we'll all be dead soon, and for the love of God, they're just jokes. 4. People are priority uno. Because that's the only thing that even slightly matters. How you make people feel. Even if nothing matters, pain is real. So just leave a good tip for Christ's sake. 5. You're usually the most important part of their life. Because amidst all this crap we have to go through like jobs and traffic, loving and being loved is still the most nonsensical thing that makes the most sense. To a nihilist, we all get screwed in life. So the least we can do is find someone to get screwed with.
Every single time I see a new video of his, I go, that's my favorite video. I don't think he can get any better. I don't think he can do a better video. But yet he still does. That was incredible, right? 5 reasons to date a nihilist. Incredible. Gonna check the chat one more time. Yeah, right? Best thing ever. Samy Jenkins. That guy just creates such magic. That was just like magic. I actually teared up a little bit, to tell you the truth. It's like, wow, I didn't think I'd get this emotional about this stupid fucking video about nihilism and about how being kind to each other is the currency, right? Is the currency. But yeah, there you go. All right, next story. The show just keeps moving, everyone. That's what happens. You want to talk about cyber ninjas? We talked about Nazis. We talked about cats. We talked about nihilism. Do you want to talk Nazis? I mean, well, they could be Nazi ninjas, to tell you the truth. They could be Nazi ninjas. I'm going to let you decide. All right, what's this video? The name of the video is Cyber Ninja Company in Arizona. Ballots done under investigation by House Oversight Committee. Is this a racial video? This is a racial video.
Is dated today. It went out today. It went out under the letterhead of the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, and it is addressed to the CEO of Cyber Ninjas, a man named Doug Logan. The Oversight Committee in Congress has now sent this letter. They sent it to a rented mailbox at a UPS store in Sarasota, Florida, because that's the company's official address. You make do with what you have. They got to send it somewhere. It starts, quote, "Dear Mr. Logan, we are writing to request information about Cyber Ninja's participation in a, quote, audit." They've put the word audit in quotes. An audit of nearly 2.1 million ballots cast in Arizona in the 2020 election. We are concerned about your company's role in this highly unusual effort, given Cyber Ninja's apparent lack of experience in conducting election-related audits. Reports that the company engaged in sloppy and insecure audit practices that compromised the integrity of ballots and voting equipment and were questioned by the U.S. Justice Department, and evidence that you and other individuals funding the audit have sought to advance the big lie of debunked voter fraud allegations about the 2020 presidential election. Americans' right to vote is protected by the Constitution. It is the cornerstone of our democratic system of government. The committee seeks to determine whether the privately funded audit conducted by your company in Arizona protects the right to vote, or is instead an effort to promote baseless conspiracy theories, undermine confidence in America's elections, and reverse the results of a free and fair election for partisan gain. What do you really mean? The letter from the Oversight Committee concludes, quote, "For all of these reasons, the committee requests that Cyber Ninjas produce the following documents by July 28th. And they then include this comprehensive list of documents and communications they want. Cyber Ninja's funding sources, its procedures for conducting this, whatever it is they're doing in Arizona, documents and communications about the various conspiracy theories fueling their work, like they put it in there, bamboo-laced ballots smuggled in from Asian countries, watermarks placed on the ballot that are visible with UV lights. Yeah, do you have any documentation about the bamboo thing? Do you have any documentation about why your magic watermarks only work with UV light when everybody else's watermarks just work when you hold them up? And of course, part of the point of an investigation like this from the Oversight Committee in Congress is just to gather evidence, to investigate and report on what's going down in Arizona so the American people can understand it. If there are laws being broken in Arizona, as the Justice Department hinted at in the letter they sent to the Arizona Senate Republicans earlier this year, well, if the committee finds evidence that laws are being broken, they can make referrals to the Justice Department. But of course, another goal of a congressional investigation is to determine whether there is congressional action that needs to be taken. And the committee ends its letter tonight with this, quote, "The committee is particularly concerned that your company's actions could undermine the integrity of federal elections and interfere with Americans' constitutional right to cast their ballot freely and to have their votes counted without partisan interference. The committee intends to study the need for legislative reforms to ensure the right is protected before, during, and after an election, and that third parties do not interfere with this right." Tell me more.
And this is why I would never be elected as representative or could work in a legitimate job, because I'd be saying you have to put down, you have to address, this is how you should address the letter. Dear Mr. Ninja. It's like, well, that's not his name, Andy. That's not his name, Dr. Kennard. But it's funny. You should put down because the person running Cyber Ninja is obviously a tool. So we should just treat him as a tool. Dear Mr. Ninja, the gig is up. Be prepared to be buried in legal fees. Signed, U.S. Congress. Chat about nihilism in there, huh? All right. Everyone's like vibing the nihilism this morning. Vibing the nihilism. Woohoo! All right. What else are we going to talk about? COVID Christians. Let's talk about COVID Christians. They're really a plague. Not cicadas, but really it's COVID Christians. Why? Because they spread plague. They're plague rats. COVID Christians are plague rats, everyone. And I think I might be insulting plague rats right now by comparing COVID Christians with plague rats. Camp, I'm not going to pronounce that word. Retreat COVID outbreak now in 70 plus cases, 13 Miami Valley. You might initially have thought this might be Miami, Florida. No, Miami is not in a valley in Miami, Florida, but we're talking about Miami, Ohio. All right. Spreading the good word about Jesus as well as the virus. Public Health, Dayton and Montgomery County is investigating a COVID-19 outbreak out of Camp all right, I'm going to try it. Chautauqua in Miamisburg with at least 30 confirmed cases. The Ohio Department of Health has issued a statewide alert after the exposure was discovered and alerted surrounding states. Public health officials said that the incident occurred during a Baptist church retreat from June 27th, hey, that's my birthday, to July 3rd that included people from Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, and Indiana. The 30-plus confirmed cases were from Ohio and Kentucky, but over 800 people attended the event. Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County's PIO Dan Cefaletto says 8 of those 30 cases are confirmed here in Montgomery County. All 8 cases are people who are not vaccinated. Not surprising. When there is a large number of people and many are not vaccinated and no one is wearing masks, that is a ripe situation for the potential spread of COVID-19, said Cefaletto. The camp and event organizers allegedly did not respond to public health for several days after reports emerged of new cases and have not yet provided contact information for attendees. Public health officials are asking anyone who attended this event to contact them or their local health department. So the Baptists aren't really helping public health officials. Not only are they spreading the virus, but they're not really helping people in terms of contact tracing. Are you surprised? Are you surprised, microphone? I think it's okay now, microphone, that we can talk to each other because it's Thursday, right? Yes, the microphone's not surprised about the Baptists being resistant to helping public health officials. Unvaccinated people, including children under 12 years of age, are up to 100 times more likely to get sick after exposure to COVID-19 compared to fully vaccinated individuals, said Michael Don, medical director of public health, Dayton and Montgomery County. This outbreak demonstrates that the COVID-19 virus is still circulating and continues to make people sick. But you're asking me, did this article get updated? Yes, there is an update. The update is now reporting at least 70 cases of COVID-19 associated with the retreat. 13 of the reported cases are local to Miami County, so that's at least 70 cases. Thanks to Jesus. Praise the Lord. Praise the plague rats. Glenn Chesterton said, what did those, I can just imagine Glenn shaking fists at screen. What did those plague rats ever do to you? Don't compare them with those COVIDiots. Dee Parks, Dee Parks writes, most of the people in my office aren't vaccinated. Some are going to a convention in Vegas next week. Who wants to take bets on how many come back sick? Oh, yeah. Keeping the window open. Keep the window open. Dee Parks, I know that, I work many times in congregate housing. So there's a large buildings where the people I help out, they live. And so when I have to go into the community laundry, I make sure that all the windows are open, the fans are on, because ventilation counts. Are you sure about that, Samy? Or you just want to hear me say shit? I think that's it. Not kidding either. Okay, all right. That's what Google said anyway. Very good. Yeah, I feel for you, Dee Parks. People go into Vegas, and Vegas is one of the hot spots too. We talked about Nevada the other day on the show. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday or the day before, about outbreaks in Nevada, and Las Vegas is one of the hot spots. I know, but you see, Scott Duke, I know it's the fleas, right? But I think plague rat carries more of a punch. It's more of a punch, I think, plague rats, in terms with COVIDiots. All right. Next story, everyone. What am I doing? Where am I looking? What have we done so far? The Reichstag, Nazis. My cat's depression that my girlfriend is away. The cat's not even down here. She's not even down here to visit me either. She's just somewhere else. COVID Christians, cyber ninjas, Nazi ninjas. You want to talk about how much time? We got plenty of time. Let's talk about Maine, everyone. Let's talk about Maine. And what's the story about Maine? Not marijuana related, though there is a marijuana related story after this one that we're going to do. Maine becomes the fourth state to repeal civil asset forfeiture. A new law will require a criminal conviction before property can be seized. Time and time again, one of the jobs here I try to do on the channel is try to explain how crazy the American legal system is to non-Americans, or to Americans too, right? So before we get into the story, I'll give you a little background on civil forfeiture laws here in the States. And to do that, I'm going to show you a video of an example of someone getting their car stolen from them by the police. I'm going to use that. I think civil forfeiture is legalized theft, certainly. All right, I'm going to share the screen. Take a look at this short video. Indiana man fights police use of civil forfeiture to take his Land Rover. This man's been fighting for 8 years to get his car back. I wish to my fictitious God I was making this up, but I'm not.
.513, a man from Marion, Indiana, has been fighting for nearly 8 years to get his car back from police, and he's now back in court.
Yeah, the case that 13 Investigates has been following now for nearly a year. As our Dustin Grove found out, it's not over yet.
We first met Tyson Timms last year, walking into a Grant County courtroom to admit he's not perfect, but he doesn't deserve to lose his car.
Our system is supposed to be about rehabilitation, and that's not what any of this is.
It's a battle he's been fighting for 8 years. In 2013, police arrested him for selling heroin. He pleaded guilty, got probation, and paid a few $100s in fines. Police also took his Land Rover. They can do that through something called civil forfeiture. It allows authorities to take someone's property if it's connected to a crime, sell it, and then keep most of the money for their own department. But Timms and his lawyers argued taking his $40,000 vehicle was excessive given the...
All right, I just want to point out the thing that needs to be pointed out is that civil forfeiture, it incentivizes the police to take your stuff because they keep the money. Can you see how that incentivizes the wrong behavior? I think that incentivizes the wrong behavior. Let's get back to the story.
The crime. He's got obligations to go to probation meetings. He's got to get to work. He's got to go to substance abuse counseling. All of those things are impossible in a place like Marion, Indiana, without a car.
In 2019, the Timms case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled the part of the Constitution that protects us from excessive fines applies not only to federal courts, but local courts too. A Grant County court ruled the fine was excessive, and in May, after 8 years, Tyson got his SUV back. But the state of Indiana is appealing, so it's back in court again. When we spoke with Tyson last year, he told us it's no longer just about his car.
And this started because I wanted it back. You know, I've kept going because I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Tyson's lawyers say this case highlights an even bigger problem with civil forfeiture, which can sometimes cost people their property even when they themselves haven't committed a crime at all. An Indiana woman says it happened to her.
Nobody would tell me where my property was. Nobody, because I even said to them at one point, I have a handicapped husband. What am I supposed to do to get him around? No answer.
You'll hear her story and how long it took to get both of her vehicles back to 9/11.
Woohoo, America. That's what we need. We need the police to get more funding because they don't have enough. All right, so that's some background on civil forfeiture. Maine just did this law restricting police departments from doing such things. So this is actually a feel-good story, everyone. Once again, Maine becomes the fourth state to repeal civil asset forfeiture. Link is in the description for the entire story. Maine became the fourth state in the nation to abolish civil asset forfeiture, a practice where law enforcement can seize property if they suspect it is connected to criminal activity, even if the owner is not convicted of a crime. After the bill passed, the state legislature took effect without the governor's signature yesterday. Maine officially repealed its civil forfeiture laws, joining Nebraska, New Mexico, and North Carolina. Law enforcement groups say civil asset forfeiture is a crucial tool to disrupt drug trafficking and organized crime by targeting their ill-gotten proceeds. Once again, it's the war on drugs, right? It's really the war on drugs that they're using as a way to legitimize taking people's stuff. However, groups like the Institute for Justice, a libertarian-leaning public interest law firm, say civil forfeiture provides too few due process protections for property owners who often bear the burden of proving their innocence and creates too many perverse profit incentives for police. The new law will allow property forfeiture without criminal conviction in only a few narrow circumstances, such as when it is abandoned or the owner dies. The law also creates a right to a prompt post-seizure hearing for owners and requires the Maine Department of Public Safety to post forfeiture reports on its website. You mean you have to make the police accountable to the public, or at least be a little bit more transparent? In 2018, the Maine Beacon reported that despite a law requiring the Department of Public Safety to create quarterly reports of seized property, it had never done so. I'm just going to let the anger kind of simmer here for a minute here for me. All right, I'm ready. More significantly, Maine's new law ends the so-called equitable sharing loophole, which allows state and local police to partner with federal law enforcement and move forfeiture cases to federal court. In doing so, local law enforcement can evade stricter state laws and keep up to 80% of the forfeiture proceeds. The other 20% goes to the Department of Justice fund that distributes revenues by participating law enforcement agencies across the country. So the federal government was in cahoots. Am I going to use such bold language? Cahoots with state governments in taking people's money, taking people's property. And I just want to say about the lawyer, dead ringer for a young Stephen King, right? In that video that we saw, God, I thought he looked like a young, kind of chunky Stephen King. Check out the chat before going on to the next story. All right. Well, yes, Dee Parks, America, where we're more afraid of the police than the criminals. Yeah. Well, yeah. The criminals might just be trying to make money, right? I mean, you can make an argument that the police are just trying to make money too, but it's a little bit more insidious, more pernicious than that. Well, this is it, John Hudson. The more that you look at the justice system here in the States, the more you realize it's flawed. It's flawed. That's a nice way to say it. Samy says, so let me get this right. American police will kill you and or take your shit. Yes, that is exactly freedom right there. Oh, John Hudson says, this happened to me and the cost to get my shit back exceeded its worth. Yeah. Yes. So they held you captive. They held your stuff captive, John Hudson, basically. And the girlfriend's here. Hello, girlfriend. You're a couple of time zones away. I'm surprised that you're up this early. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Once again, the cat sends its best. It's mourning your lot. It's mourning you being away, sleeping in your spot, well, where your feet would be normally. All right. Last story, weed. Hope for the federalization of the legalization of marijuana. Hope. There's hope, everyone. And from Republicans, too. Legal weed is gaining a little ground among GOP congressmen. This is from NPR. Actually, the story has been produced by WBUR, which is from Boston. Most congressional Democrats say it's time to end a federal prohibition on marijuana, and a growing number of Republicans agree. In a town that moves at a glacial pace, this is one issue that's picked up a lot of energy over time, said Rep. Dave Joyce, Republican from Ohio. But that energy is not enough to change the law. Lawmakers don't see eye to eye on how to legalize cannabis, and businesses are stuck in the middle of the debate. Joyce is co-sponsoring a GOP plan that would regulate marijuana like alcohol and enable the Department of Veterans Affairs to prescribe cannabis treatments to veterans. Many Democrats like those ideas, but want to go further. Representative Ayanna Pressley, she's my representative, by the way, Democratic Massachusetts, said the lucrative marijuana marketplace must welcome people of color. Quote, people who were disproportionately locked up and now being locked out of a multi-billion-dollar industry, unquote. Pressley is a co-sponsor of the MORE Act, which stands for Marijuana Opportunity, Reinvestment, and Expungement. It would clear some criminal records and impose a 5 to 8% sales tax. Some of the revenue would fund a special program for cannabis entrepreneurs from neighborhoods targeted in the war on drugs. President Biden is still a weed skeptic. Of course he is. He's Joe Biden. Lifting the federal cannabis ban would reduce the risk by easing bank lending. It also would bring the law in line with public opinion. In a recent Pew poll, 91% of American adults said marijuana should be legal for medical use and 60% for recreational use. Plus, the vast majority of states have legalized medical or recreational marijuana already. But a bipartisan deal doesn't look imminent, and it also remains unclear what President Biden, a cannabis skeptic, would be willing to sign. The president supports leaving decisions regarding legalization for recreational use up to the states. That's what we call punting the ball, everyone. That was said by Press Secretary Jen Psaki. But yes, that's called punting the ball. So the Biden administration doesn't want to really support the legalization of marijuana, which is a shame. But at least some Republican congressmen, congresswomen are going in that direction. Let's check out the chat. Hey, Paul Camish, hope you're doing well. Well, yeah, legalization would take revenue away from the criminals, right? Decriminalizing prostitution would take money out of, legalizing prostitution, sex work would take money out of criminals. ending the war on drugs, making drugs legal, would take money out of the hands of criminals. Having safe injection sites would save drug users from overdosing. But these are all rational-based policies. These are all policies that fly in the face of the evangelical ethos. That's what it does. All right, time to wrap things up, everyone. What have we talked about? The Reichstag fire. A quick overview of what the Reichstag fire was back in 1933, February 27th. How it applies today with General Milley in the new book, basically saying, head chiefs of staff saying, Trump is doing some Fuhrer-like stuff, some Hitler stuff, and being afraid of the Reichstag moment, of a potential Reichstag moment. COVID Christians, I'm still going to call them plague rats. I'm still going to call COVID Christians plague rats. It's not maybe factually correct, but there's a visual metaphor there that I like. Ninjas, Nazi ninjas. Maine, getting rid of civil forfeiture laws, that the police just can't take your stuff because they don't like you or they suspect you of a crime. And of course, weed, wonderful weed. Republicans coming around to the idea of federalization, of lifting the federal law against marijuana. Wow, we just did a whole effing lot. Let's do something funny for the last video before we say our goodbyes.
It's called the circle of life because it's pointless.
Haters got you down?
I show the haters how it's done by hating myself more than they ever could.
The point of this video was to tell people what the longest part of your morning routine was.
Finding the will to live.
I like the circle of life because it has no point. I like that. It was funny. I think you should have. I'm not going to critique his video. Funny video, everyone. So, after party, after show at 10 o'clock, 10 to 10:30. That's what I can do today because I got to go to work early today. I'm going to do my thank you video, and I will see you all, hopefully, at 10 a.m. If you want to be on the panel, link is in the description below. Take care, everyone.